Well, Bob Mason, I tell you what, you were fantastic at writing books, and we got to give you a lot of credit for that. I love the cover of The Ultimate Beagle, and we recommend this to everybody. I haven't finished it yet, but I'm working on it. And tell us about it.
Well, you know, years ago, I wrote some articles to some of the leading Hounds magazine, and I kept getting rejection slips. And I told my wife one day, I said, one day I'm going to expand this into a book. And I wrote, the article was The Natural Born Rabbit Dog. And one of the things that encouraged me, one of the ladies that was that worked for the magazine wrote me back and said, "You're absolutely right about the Natural Born Rabbit Dog." Said, "I'm sorry, we can't publish it this time." And so later on, when I had some time, I began working on it and wrote the book entitled. We wanted the title Beagle in there, but I subtitled it The Natural Born Rabbit Dog.
Well, you know, the Beagle is a natural-born rabbit dog in the beginning.
Yeah.
But were they all purebred that you had?
Well,
that what you were writing about?
You know, there's a difference between purebred and registered. There are a lot of purebred beagles that are not registered beagle.
I did not know that.
And there are many houndsmen that have been very meticulous in keeping their bloodlines pure and breeding only beagles to beagle. Now, some have bred to trash.
Yeah.
But then some of the registered beagles are trash. So the stewardship depends upon the houndsman.
What you and I know is that a beagle is an incredibly smart dog. It can be an incredibly smart dog, not only with the human beings, but more likely with what he's doing. And as a rabbit dog, what is this book about?
Well, it celebrates true greatness in a hound. For a long time, I saw the trend of the leading Beagle organization to producing and reproducing slow, ineffectual hounds. Not the kind of hound you could go to the field and kill a rabbit.
It's more like inbred almost.
Well, yeah.
They become.
And they would celebrate it as though they had done something truly significant. In these hunting magazines, they say slow power, a fast talker, and a slow walker. And my question was, what does a slow walker have to do so much talking about?
Yeah.
You know, in the field, you get in dense cover, you want a dog that's going to push that rabbit. First, he needs to be able to jump his own rabbit and push that rabbit to a conclusion.
Exactly.
If he babbles around in the field, first of all, you can't tell where in relationship to the dog the rabbit is in a big weed field.
Oh, of course.
And secondly, he cannot put enough pressure if he's slow. He cannot put enough pressure on that rabbit to bring that rabbit to the gun.
Yeah.
That rabbit just tip around in
he'll scoot out.
Field.
Yeah.
A field no bigger than the size of this. A particularly clever rabbit can give you
elude.
That's right.
Yeah.
Give a dog a lot of trouble.
Well, you know, with a beagle, I found in my life, in my limited experience, a beagle can actually herd a rabbit. I mean, he actually prevents him from going. He can herd him exactly over to you and where you need to be.
Well, I have heard that said, but
You don't
I'm
agree?
afraid I disagree with that. Nothing pursuing from behind can dictate to the animal that's being pursued which direction he's to go in. But he can put enough pressure on that animal so that the animal moves in a straighter line and is therefore more predictable for the hunter.
Yeah.
Hunter can get out in front and set up an
So
ambush.
a hunter and a dog really have to have a relationship, so the dog is in tune with the hunter and vice versa.
That's right. And the dog should know that he's not just working for his own amusement. He's working in concert with the hunter. He's driving game to the kill.
What do you feed a really good rabbit dog?
Well, there are a lot of fine dog foods on the market. High protein and nutritious dog food that will give your dog all the nutrients it needs to have a good and healthy life. Most rural people give their dogs a good helping of table scraps. And if you got kids, there are going to be plenty of scraps.
Scraps, sure. I was told that a good hunting dog should be fed meat. Should it be within his diet? Not totally, but should be within his diet.
I think what is true for most carnivores is true also for beagles. They are meat eaters, just as we are. And
I know some Seventh-day Adventists that may disagree with you out there. Our friends are a little more vegetarian and such, but I do agree with you 100%. I know since you and I are just talking, and I know we're being filmed by and being watched by a lot of people, but when you have an inclination toward meat, it makes you smarter. For me, because of my stroke, etc. I am smarter with chicken than I am with beef, and I'm smarter with fish than I am with beef. And I guess that would be the same with the dog too. You should.
Well, I don't know. I've not studied that very closely. With me, if I'm hungry,
you eat.
I eat.
Well, look at the two of us. You can see I've never been hungry in my life. I have to say, really. Well, tell me more about beagles. To keep going on this thing, because you're good at it.
One of the things I pointed out in my book is that the old houndsmen, the old hunters, they didn't have these artificial standards for judging the work of a dog. At the end of the day, if they had game in their hunting coats, the dog had done his job. And they prized a dog, as I said before, that could search all types of cover, jump their own rabbit, and run that rabbit decisively, bring that rabbit around to the gun. And when they found a rabbit dog that did everything a rabbit dog should do, they didn't call him field champion, they didn't call him grand champion, they called him a natural born rabbit dog. And that's where I took my title.
You know, we had I had a blue heeler one time, an Australian blue heeler, and it would nip at my heels to make me go in certain directions. And I know with cattle they do that, as herding dogs with sheep, etc. But a beagle doesn't do that.
No.
That way. I mean, a beagle is more, I don't want to say intellectual, but it would seem intellectual to a human. To see a beagle in action, because he is very sublime in how he does stuff. He isn't as physical as actually going after and nipping someone to get him to go to where he's supposed to go. Is that correct?
Well, Bob, and I don't know how they do this, but those who study animal intelligence assign the beagle somewhere close to the very bottom in terms of intelligence. But he is instinctual. He has been bred for generation after generation to do what he does, and nothing can do it better than he can. Even the more intelligent breed, I think the Airedale is one of the more intelligent breeds in some of your bird hounds, bird dogs, setters, and pointers. But at doing what the beagle does, nothing's better.
Well, there's a thin line between instinct and intelligence. Very thin line. I mean, and that could go with human beings too. I mean, we have intelligence, but we do have a lot of instincts that are bred to us because of the way we're raised, et cetera, et cetera. But with a beagle, I've always found beagles to be, if I tell one to sit, he'll look at me and he'll either do it or he'll tell me to go jump in the lake. A beagle can be very solid-headed, very strong-headed, but at the same time extremely instinctive about something. Is that? Am I on the right?
Well, I know this. if you want an animal that's going to interact with people and children, families,
Yeah.
Or an animal that's going to be functional in the field, you can't beat the Beagle.
No.
He is one of the truly great little hounds, and my wife and I reared a family. We had our children, and now my dad never allowed me to play with his beagles. I can feed them, care for
you
them,
don't want to spoil them, yeah.
but they, a lot of that was just my dad, his concept of discipline. But they interact with kids just fine.
As you know, I have a golden retriever over here, and he's watching us as we talk now, but he is probably one of the smartest dogs I've ever met. But he can't chase a rabbit for the life of him. I mean, he could chase him, but he won't catch him. He won't go anywhere near. A squirrel in particular, they love to go up in the trees, and they don't care anything about it. But a beagle has a sense of actually hurting it. Doesn't it not? Does it not? Putting it in the right spot for the hunter?
I think the thing about the beagle is that no animal can match the endurance of hounds. And a beagle is one of your smaller hounds. He has endurance, he has speed, he has
instinct.
He has tremendous scenting ability. A lot of dogs don't have a very strong olfactory capacity. They just don't have the nose to do the work a beagle does.
As you know, I'm a neophyte to this, so I'm grasping for questions to ask you that make sense. So you go ahead and fill in any time on this book, and The Ultimate Beagle, and it's phenomenal, and it's something everybody should try and should read. Right there, if you all can see it pretty well. And there we go, trying to get it in the right spot here so you can see it.
Well, you've got an amateur photographer over here. Videographer.
It's tough. It's tough.
It's great. It's great sitting out there listening to you guys. I mean, you make me feel like I'm a preschooler or something. But,
I will say, Ron, if I could, I will say this in fairness to some of your dog organizations. I gave some of them a pretty tough tongue lashing or pen lashing in this book, but the pendulum has swung back to faster beagles. At one time, it was going to just a dead end. Sloth was ruling the day, but over the last several years, I've gone to field trials, and I found that the kinds of dogs that they're running and allowing to win in the trial is far different from what it was, say, several decades ago.
Well, it's not. If you have a great mother and a great father, it's not indicative you're going to have a great kid.
No, that's true.
And I think a lot of overbreeding happened, probably in late 60s, early 70s, maybe 80s, and there was a lot of overbreeding of these animals, and you've got some. It diminished the species, I think. Now, if I'm wrong, you don't be afraid to tell me, because.
Well, I think I point out in this book that in the final analysis, greatness is a gift of God. Secretariat hasn't produced another secretariat, and we may not see another secretariat in our lifetime or ever again, because he was head and shoulder above every thoroughbred that's ever run.
You're right.
They say that his heart was bigger than the hearts of others.
How much of that is due to how you raise them? Because if I can use a human as an example, if we're all born equally, as it is said in the Bible, etc., yet you have kids who are functional idiots, and you have people who are geniuses, curing cancer. And it's the same way with dogs. It's how you raise them. I became what I became because of my parents. You became what you became because of your parents. Okay, not in spite of your parents,
But you know,
because of your parents.
Bob, it's not just X's and O's. It's not just X and Y chromosomes. There's a God element there.
There
And
is.
every so often, and I think I mentioned this in the book, every so often it pleases Almighty God to create a creature that's better than anything of its kind. Exceptional creatures.
I won't disagree with you on that. I also think he creates substandard that others have to make into exceptional creatures. Because I don't think you're just born exceptional as a beagle. I think you have to be made, you have to use those talents. I keep relating to human, which I probably shouldn't, but you know, some people are experts in math. Other people can sell. I mean, I could sell anything, all right, except this book. By the way, here it is right here.
You may be doing a good job at it.
But the point is, I'd be a lousy mathematician. And I think with dogs, it's the same thing. You could either be a great rabid dog, or you couldn't be a rabid dog.
Right.
Am I wrong?
You're right, but you know, there's so many variables. You've got to expose a rabid dog to rabbit hunting, and you have a window of time in which to expose it, or that dog can have all the potential, all the genetic potential in the world, and he's not going to come to fruition in terms of being
so diet has a lot to do with it. Exercise has a lot to do with it. And what else? Diet, exercise, what else?
Care,
exposure,
timely exposure under conditions that allow those abilities, those latent abilities to develop.
Yeah.
Now, fellas, it's been really nice learning all this about the beagles. However, we're about to run out of time. So, I know that beagles is not the only thing that Robert L. Mason has written about. He's just finished.
Tell us about it.
He's just finished a new novel. He was a Vietnam veteran. I don't know if you knew that.
Oh,
But you guys just first met.
Robert, I'm sorry.
And
Thank you.
Not a novel.
Thank you for serving.
Is it a novel? Am I right?
No,
it's not a novel.
This is an autobiographical
Autobiographical.
chronicle of my experiences and the experiences of a lot of young men of my age that left their homes and families and went off to join the Marine Corps or other branches of service and ended up.
What? I hope we can come back so we can talk more about that.
Well, I think as soon as I don't know, Robert don't know this, but we actually are in a short while we're going to have a worldwide internet radio station right here.
Is that right?
Yes. Absolutely.